Newsroom. The past 12 months have seen the Arab League come together on Libya and splinter badly on Syria. A lot of those divisions on Syria run along sectarian lines, which takes us to one of the epicenters of that Sunni-Shiite divide. For the first time in 22 years, Baghdad hosting the Arab League Summit. 3 million flowers, 500,000 trees planted, and the Iraqi capital spruced up to roll out the red carpet for the first time since, there's been 2 U.S.-led invasions and a bloody civil war. The summit takes place in a nation now on its own, 3 months after the departure of the last U.S. soldiers from Iraqi soil. What does an post-occupation Iraq look like? With a Shiite premier who's openly rowing with his Sunni vice president and arguing over oil with the Kurdish north. Iran also careful when it comes to its neighbors, how close or how far to be when it comes to places like Iran and Syria. We're going to be looking at a country still rocked by deadly sectarian rivalries within, trouble at its borders, an oil-rich nation trying to hold it all together. Today in the France 24 debate, welcome to Baghdad, and with us from the Iraqi capital, Ghassan Attia, former diplomat, director of the Iraq Foundation for Development and Democracy. Thank you for being with us. From Washington, we'll be joined later by Daniel Serwer of Johns Hopkins University, Walid Fares, who teaches at National Defense University and is in Miami. Thank you for being with us again on the debate. And Mehdi Lebouachra of the French news agency AFP. Mehdi, who worked in the Baghdad bureau from, you were saying, 2005 to 2009, right?
Yes, on and off.
Okay.
I was based there for...
The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter, our handle at François F24. First thing to mention, of course, is a city under lockdown. France 24's Taoufik Mjahed, who's covering it for our Arab desk, telling us that he went to the market for a stroll, and people were quite upset. They say the delivery trucks are not able to get in, and the price of tomatoes has doubled in the past day. Let me ask you, Ghassan Attia, what's it like Baghdad under lockdown?
Well, Baghdad actually is almost in a state of curfew, and moving around is so difficult. And the government gave the Iraqis in Baghdad a week holiday to ease the tension in Baghdad. But this has caused an increase in the prices because getting foods and food stock to Baghdad is becoming more difficult. However, people are still wondering what will the summit give them in return. And in Arabic, there's a word summit, but in Arabic they're similar to it, which will be almost a curse. So the man in the street would say in Arabic, this is a niqmah, a curse, rather than a summit to the Iraqis. But this is the general feeling inside, and this reflects the dichotomy between the rulers who are entrenched in the green zone and the man in the street and outside that area.
Interesting you say that. It sort of meshes with what our France 24's Taoufik Mjahed was telling us about how the last time there was a summit in 1990, nobody even noticed that the leaders were there. Of course, there are legitimate security issues involved here, are there not?
Of course there are legitimate ones, especially a few days ago there was widespread bombing here and there. But nevertheless, the Iraqis are hoping that this summit will help Iraq to stabilize Iraq. But they have to wait and see it. And in a way, this summit, I would say, is no doubt a personal victory to the Prime Minister al-Maliki. And there are so many factors in this summit. In a way, prior to this summit, al-Maliki took certain steps by accommodating the Saudis, even the Kuwaitis, and he made a sort of an agreement with the Kuwaitis.
We're going to get to that point in a moment. Let's first look, though, again, at the reactions in town and pick up on your first point there. First Arab League summit in Baghdad since 1990 had been scheduled for last year. It had been postponed. Some say because it was too dangerous.
Yes.
Others because of the divisions that the Times still, the ones that you were mentioning a short moment ago. Now, even though many heads of state are staying away from that city that's under lockdown today, there was a finance ministers meeting. 7 out of 27 showed up. Nonetheless, some of the locals are proud. Let's listen to one official.
No, for Iraq, it's very important. First of all, it is a recognition of the Arab countries that Iraq is now back to its normality. Iraq now is a major actor in the Arab countries.
But just 1 week ago today, those are the images there of the men entering the conference hall. Just 1 week ago today, there was a string of at least 27 bombs across the country, 51 killed. Among those targeted, Shiite pilgrims in the Muslim holy city of Karbala. Walid Fares, this summit, is it a coming of age for the Iraqis, or is it too soon?
Well, it's both. Reality is for the government, the Maliki government, it is indeed, as it was said, a political victory. Because on the one hand, it is happening after the American withdrawal from Iraq. So it's a recognition that Iraq is not occupied anymore. But on the other hand, for the Iraqi, mostly Shia government, or mostly Shia-controlled government, to have a large number of Arab Sunni governments, including those on the borders, Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Syria, obviously, be at the summit means that there is a recognition that Iraq is back into the fold of the Arab League, and that Iraq, and that's the undeclared point, that Iraq is not really, in the view of the Arab League, under the control of Iran. So that's a kind of a pass for the Iraqi government.
Mehdi Lebouachera, when you look at the images of Baghdad under lockdown, you were in Baghdad at some of the time when there was some of the worst fighting taking place. What are your thoughts? Do you see the glass half full, that this is an accomplishment, the fact they're even able to host this summit, or is it a sign that, well, it is still very precarious?
Well, it is an accomplishment because a lot of head of states, like minister, came to Baghdad to actually attend the summit. So it's a success for Baghdad. But as you mentioned, 51 people got killed in this last month, which is a still big number. And people are still very afraid that major bombing will come back. And that's a reminder that the security in Baghdad is very fragile until now. And so far, the government is trying to hold like the power it has, but with very dangerous means.
Why are these sectarian bombings happening?
What the Iraqi officials have said, of course, is that the Al-Qaeda was behind the bombings, and they were trying to remind them that they were still there. Although there's no proof as always, but the sectarian violence in Iraq...
Most of them are targeting those Shiites.
Yes. But the sectarian violence in Iraq has gone down from 2006, but the division is really strong between Iraqis. And one proof is that Mr. Maliki, the prime minister, tried to arrest Tariq al-Hashimi, the vice president, who had to flee to Kurdistan.
His Sunni vice president,
Yes.
who's still there.
Yeah, who's still there. And the Sunni population is really worried about arrests, illegal detentions, secret prisons, and the Kurds on the other side are also very worried about the power that Mr. Maliki is trying to hold.
Ghassan Atiyah, I know that you divide your time between London and Baghdad. When you came back this time, what was your feeling in terms of the level of tension?
Well, the level of tension will be a matter of fact that the Iraqi have to live with. And it somehow, ironically, the Iraqi got adapted and used to it. And some of them will know about the tension or the bombing only from the TV, but they still carry on their life. I have been moving around to different provinces, and I saw a huge difference this year than a few years ago. In addition to that, the tension, violence is related to the political dichotomy. The nearer they are to a solution, the less the violence. So this is, in a way, a fact that the Prime Minister Maliki has to address. He has to find a truly Sunni Arab ally to work with. But rather than trying to win one person here, another person there, and this will increase the field of marginalization among the Sunnis. And some of the young teachers and professors that I met during the week, the Sunni ones, some of them express their fear, to express their opinion. They fear that they will be apprehended or imprisoned. And I was astonished when one of them said to me, this is the first time I feel free to talk to someone not from my friends or circle. This sense of marginalization among the Sunni is a very serious issue. It has to be addressed. It will not be addressed by appeasing a small group here and there, but it needs an approach. However, I feel the Maliki will not be able to address this issue because the sectarian polarization will never be able to find a compromise due to the lack of a third secular force. The Iraqi society, I met peasants, sheikhs, religious people. They see they are fed up with the use of religion in politics. The question is there a chance for the emergence of a more secular Iraqi political grouping? The one I met here in Iraq, I was really astonished to see that even the Iraqi communists becoming popular, not because of Marxism, but because they are secular. And they are holding meetings here and there. And this is a new development. If such a trend will emerge in Iraqi society, then there is a chance in 2 years' time, if we have a free and fair elections, I feel then we might have new forces which will be able to reach an accommodation or a compromise where at least the majority of the Sunni will feel more at ease with this government rather than the way they feel now.
That's an interesting point. Wali Fares, what's your reaction to that? Citizens just fed up with religion and politics?
Dr. Atiyah has a very good point. He knows Iraq's civil society very well. He's published in this area. But let me look at it from a high altitude, meaning we're not dealing with day-to-day explosions happening by themselves or just sectarian fights just awakening. There are networks, there are political forces. There is a map of Iraq, a political map of Iraq that we need to understand quickly. On the Sunni side, you have traditional politicians who do feel that the current government, mostly controlled by the Shia, and behind them Iranian influence, is suppressing them. But they're not the ones fighting on the streets. Behind them, you have more extreme element, the Salafi jihadi elements, who are claiming that the traditional Sunni politicians are not doing enough and taking the action and taking terrorism to the other side. And the Shia side, you have the government, which basically is suppressive somewhat of the Sunni politicians, but has to its right, if you want, to its more extreme wing, a pro-Iranian element that would not accept any concession to the Sunni. So what I agree with Dr. Atiyah is that on both sides, in both communities, of course, among the Kurds as well, but among Sunni and Shia, what we are looking to find in the near future is the rise of two younger, more civil society, secular forces. And by coming together, they will bring the unity of Iraq and not the current politicians, unfortunately.
Daniel Surwer of Johns Hopkins University joins us now. Thanks for being with us. I want to ask you the question, an Arab League summit where, after all, the president of Iraq, it's a mostly ceremonial position, but he is a Kurd, and the prime minister is a Shiite. Could you say that is unprecedented for the Arab League?
Well, it may be. I don't really know whether it's unprecedented for the Arab League. I think it's certainly unusual, and I see no problem with it whatsoever.
Is it a positive development at this time when we're seeing the Arab world becoming more polarized, it seems, in terms of sectarianism?
Well, I think it is a positive development. It's positive in particular for Iraq to be able to host this Arab League summit. But to do it with its constitutionally formed government should be a source of satisfaction to many people. That doesn't mean Iraq doesn't have problems. It has profound problems. But I do think that the hosting of the Arab League summit is intended to give a positive signal to the rest of the world about Iraq, a positive signal to the region, and I hope it does that.
All right, and earlier Ghassan Attia was mentioning what some have described as a sort of détente taking place between the Iraqi prime minister, a Shiite, and the Sunni world. Nouri al-Maliki traveling to Kuwait earlier this month to pay off old debts lingering from the first Gulf War, and also this month signing a prisoner swap deal with Saudi Arabia. Riyadh even reopening an embassy in Baghdad. Now, granted, Mehdi Lebouachera, the Saudi ambassador, will be staying in Jordan. He'll only be paying short visits. But it's a huge step. And in a way, it's interesting to see Maliki, this man who's been branded at times as Tehran's man, instituting at this time a rapprochement with Saudi Arabia.
Well, yeah, Mr. Maliki has always been very cautious of to play a kind of game so that it would not be seen too close to the Iranians. And actually, in his government, a lot of people are saying that they should not be too close to Tehran, because if Iraq wants to play a major role, be a player in the Middle East, it has to stay. It has to keep a role of like maybe in a peace broker with the Syrian, like something trying to get involved in more political action around the region. So it has to stay in a kind of middle way, not to be seen as a Tehran proxy.
Walid Fares, how do you think Nouri al-Maliki is playing it? Why do you think that there is the closening of ties at this point with the Gulf states?
Well, in the international media, if I may say, we look at the format, forms. He is visiting Kuwait, he's visiting here and there, he's trying to be the least seen as pro-Iranian as possible. In the Arab media or in the debate within Iraq, everybody knows what everybody's doing. The prime minister of Iraq is close to Iran. There's no doubt about that. His military basically pay visit all the time, coordinates with, from time to time, with the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. But there is a operation of strategic communications, of PR. The prime minister of Iraq wants to show the Arabs that he's not that pro-Iranian. It's not that he is not pro-Iranian, that he is a friend with the Iranian, but he can do business with the Arabs, and that's something needed in in terms of diplomatic relationship. But if you read the Arab media, if you read the Iraqi media, everybody knows who and what is the alliance between all these political forces.
And how close they are. We'll pick up on that point when we return. Stay with us. You're watching the France 24 debate.
Cette campagne, elle trahit l'intérêt véritable des Français.
L'écologie, c'est la solution à nos problèmes. Ce n'est pas un problème.
Peuple de France, mettez à Nicolas Sarkozy un carton rouge.
Soyez là et nous réussirons le changement. Le changement, j'y suis prêt.
Nous sommes nombreux à être ceux qui résistent, ceux qui résistent, ceux qui résistent.
Aidez-moi à rassembler le peuple de France. Vous êtes le peuple de France.
Follow all the events as they happen on France 24.